Hello. Can anybody see? Oh, that's great. Voice sounds very well, but I may not. I may give up on this. So let's see how this works. Oh, I'll be talking about slavery. That's right. I'll compare slavery from different times and different types of slavery. I'll compare slavery in the ancient Rome, the Arab slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, and slavery in the Ottoman Empire, and of course sex trafficking in Europe. Oh, sorry, because this will be a very slow, but I try. I need to put up my, what's its name? Microphone. No. Oh, that's nice. You can see me. Great. Oh, so now I compare the two. I'm supposed to describe different forms of slavery now. Okay, now let's get started. Wrong. I don't know how to film my screen, but I was supposed to film myself, so whatever. Oh, in the ancient Rome, Roman time, the time was before Christ until roughly 100 years before Christ. Yeah. That's comparable with the Arab slave trade that took part from the year the 700, the 700s up until the 1800s. The transatlantic slave trade, they've been doing this since like the 1400s, and it was ended officially in the United States for like 1866. Fuck, should brought more shit to drink. So that's the difference. And now it's slavery in Ottoman Empire. I don't know, so I need to check out Wikipedia to find out. Ottoman slave. Yeah, there it is. Oh, it started in the 1450s. 50s. And ended the last. It ended in 1908 was the last slave sold. And something that I think is kind of funny when it comes to this is that neither the Arab slave trade nor the slavery in the Ottoman Empire was hosted by white people. And people usually say that white people are the ones responsible for slavery. That's simply not the case. It's the Arabs and the Ottomans who are doing it. Arabs are doing it for the most part of the time, and Ottoman Empire is more recent than the transatlantic slave trade. And now I'll be talking about the legal status of the slavery. In the Roman time, it's legal. The Arab slave trade was also legal. Transatlantic slave trade, legal as well. The slavery in the Ottoman Empire was legal as well. Just legal all the time. Something I missed before to mention about modern slavery, that's mostly sex trafficking in Europe. And that's just currently, so I don't really have a date for that. and that was illegal. And this illegal is not supported by law. And now we're talking about what slavery all the time was used for. In Roman time, it was used for labor, like the Labor Party, that form of labor, and also sex slave. Um, there were also domestic slaves working in the household, um, and educated slaves. The Arab slave trade was labor, and also the domestic. They have slaves working in the house. They were the first to took a lot of massive African slave, black people as slaves from Africa, and there was much more black people killed during the transatlantic slave trade, and more enslaved, and they were treated worse. Just to make that clear. So just to underlie it, I can just mention that the transatlantic slave trade and they use their slaves for labor and domestic works, like in the household. The Ottoman Empire. Oh shit! I don't really know that. I need to check it out. Oh, it say like they could achieve high status. Yeah, that's right. High status. So they could be educated, I guess. I don't really know. Oh, they use it for war. In earlier times, they were used for war. That's what slavery was for. And the current sex trafficking is usually for sex and labor. And they. Oh, now I should move on to the next section with brutality. Slavery in the ancient Rome was brutal. The Arab trade was most brutal. Transatlantic slave trade, brutal. And the Ottoman slave trade, less brutal or brutal. But then I would say that Roman slave trade was just less brutal. Oh, and the sex trafficking is less brutal than the transatlantic slave trade, at least. Now, who could be a slave? Roman times, you can be born as a slave. You can be sent to slave as. Oh, and the Romans also captured a lot of people, Europeans and other people, Berbers and Syrians. They captured those people and forced them to be slaves. Yeah, that did the Arab slave trade too. The Arab slaveholders forced captured black Africans and Europeans. And something that's a similarity between a similarity between the Arab and Ottoman slave empire was that I don't know. No, ignore it. The Arab slave trade, they usually cut off the dicks as the genital of the male slaves, so that there wouldn't be any concurrence between them and the slave-holding man, which wasn't something that was did during the transatlantic slave trade. So the Arab slave trade was way, way, way worse, and that's why they don't have so much descendants from the Arab trade. So no people, yeah. And people say that sex trafficking, or like trafficking in general, current slavery, which is illegal, but they actually, what they do, well, they're mostly girls used for sex slavery, but male slaves are usually used for labor force. And I know that they're taking people from like Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe, which is such a shame because like the Slavic culture allow like women more freedom, and that was like very good, but now it's been removed, and that's sad. Oh, if anyone have more information, post it in the chat, please. Yeah. Why have such a big need? Better. There you go. Oh, and they're actually using male slaves as sex slaves, but they usually, I've noticed they are taking Nepalese boys and they sever and cut off their genitals so that they would be more fuckable as women. And people in my school did like, what the fuck do you do? Oh, a talk about, oh, the female sex slaves or slaves in Nepal are now free and can have a future. That is because the male slaves, sex slaves from Nepal, are not going to have much of a future at all. Because gynocentrism is cancer. Now continue. Well, this might just be it. I know that the Arab slave trade captured many, many more people than during the transatlantic slave trade. But now beginning to talk about who could be slave in the transatlantic slave trade. They were born and captives. And I believe the Irish people were punished into slaves because there were Irish slaves at that time too, mostly African, but also Irish. And the Ottoman Empire, their slaves were usually European, but some like, I believe that there were like Arab or Berber slaves too. I'm not sure about that, but I think it is. And the current trafficking are usually the Asians and Slavic people. Well, I know there is others, but they're the most notable, I think. But oh yeah, African girls are slaves. Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how. Oh, well, I'm just going to be more clear about it. The Ottoman Empire, they were enslaving people as upon war captives. And the most interesting part about Arab slave trade and the Ottoman slave trade is that the Arab slave trade captured most black people because in most Abrahamic religions, including Islam, then black people are the cursed children of Ham, which makes is which justified the Arabs of enslaving those people. They were justified in doing that because of what's said in the religious text. And the Ottoman Empire said that it is prohibited to enslave other Muslims. So they use the religion in sort of a justification in their slavery. But that doesn't mean that Muslims support it. Mostly, basically every Muslim I've ever met would say that that's abhorrent. Oh, and I know the current slave trade they are capturing girls in East Africa, and their family plead to have them back, but they are saying they're back, but then they kill the girls. So it's awful. And that's the only slave trade that's currently affected. So I don't know much more to say to this actually, other than people cannot use that white people were the ones who have slaves, even though the only slaves that The only ethnicity that's common among all slaves during all times are white slaves. But there have been probably many black slaves as well, because Arab slave trade was the most massive slave trade that was going on for over thousands of years compared to any other slave trade. And the majority of people enslaved by Arabs were black people, while there were probably more white people enslaved during the Roman and Arabic slave trade than there were black people enslaved. I think so. I'm not entirely sure. It's a difficult number. I know that the Arab slave trade, they avoided to keep numbers of their slaves during certain times when they went into Inner Asia or Inner South Asia to the east of the Middle East. I think this is it. I don't really know what's more to talk about. Chat? Okay, I've been just reading this. Oh, they're seen like the people during the Arab slave trade were seen as like the infidel and the others. You were prohibited to take slaves from your own people because of the religion, but you were not prohibited to take slaves of other people. In both Ottoman and Arab slave trade. And the Ottoman slave trade was actually more recent than the transatlantic slave trade. I believe that there was many eunuchs used as slaves. Not in the transatlantic, but in the Arab slave trade at least. And Roman slave trade. Which is pretty disgusting. But remember, females are the one historically oppressed. Is there anything more? Oh, they were thinking less about black people during the transatlantic slave trade. They were thinking that them as lesser humans. That's what the we and them perspective comes in there. And that was justification of the cursed child of Ham was justification the Arab slave trade did to justify the infidel black people, and because there was prohibited to enslave Muslims. In the ancient Rome, while the slavery was used common practice, everybody had slaves, and slaves was like lesser than them. They didn't have the right to vote, but neither did most men or women. Yeah, that's the same thing as Ottoman Empire, that the slaves, the European slaves that I took to prison, were like, oh, these people are the infidel. They are not our people. They are going to be enslaved, and they are going to be our armies. They use the slaves as armies, as brute force. And of this sex trafficking is like, oh, they're thinking those are like, that's kind of fueled by, they're treated like they are just possessions and objects, and if they break up away from the pimps or halics or slaveholders, actually, they just kill the sex slaves, which is awful. That's actual misogyny, not like any privileged white women in the Western world have to deal with, but women that actually are oppressed. Then we in them situation, it's like those are like our possessions. It's like in the Roman slave trade and the Arab slave trade. Transatlantic and the Ottoman Empire. The slaves were just possessions and lesser human beings than the people holding slaves. Yeah, this is it. I think I'm done now. I hope more people will see this as it is up, and now I use this to finish my homework. So thank you for watching, and bye. Well, it will be difficult to turn this shit off, but bye soon.